All right, folks, it's time for world politics. We'll see what's happening on the political landscape and all along those lines. And we'll see if some of the regular crew joins us and all in that space. But yeah, 5 o'clock on Thursdays it is a time for world politics. Uh, Definitely, the Danish are still dealing with drone attacks. So, Danish officials believe drone flyovers at 4 airports are meant to sow fear and division. So, that's something that's being reported as a Russian Navy ship was caught lurking off of Denmark's coast as drones attack. So definitely looks like Russia is targeting some of the folks over there in Denmark, and drone attacks leave Denmark exposed and searching for a response. And a former French president was handed a 5 year prison term over Gaddafi money. So Nicolas Sarkozy sentenced to 5 years in a Libya campaign financing case. So that is a former French president who was sentenced to 5 years in that Libya corruption case. And in the first, Polish climbers skis down Everest without supplemental oxygen. So Daredevil becomes the first climber to ski down Everest without extra oxygen after 16 hours in the peak's death zone, is what the team says. So Andres Bargel just skied down Everest without bottled oxygen. So this is a first and all along those lines. And a massive sinkhole swallows part of a Bangkok road, and that's forcing evacuations in part of Thailand, and it's opened in front of a Thailand hospital. So it's a 160-foot deep sinkhole that dramatically swallowed 3 vehicles after it suddenly formed on a busy highway on yesterday. And bragging rights meets battlefield reality as Trump's peacemaker pitch falls flat at the UN. So Trump's right about everything. Grant offers no answers to a world on the brink, is what some folks are saying about his UN General Assembly speech. And Palestinian leader says he's ready to work with U.S. for a two-state peace plan. Palestine is ours, Abbas tells the UN General Assembly, and Palestinians will not leave, Mahmoud Abbas is saying as well. So Trump says U.S. close to some kind of deal in Gaza after a great meeting with regional leaders. And Italy and Spain sent Navy ships to protect Gaza flotilla. So that's something going on in the world as people are talking about the day with Nicole Frolic and Gaza aid flotilla being hit by drone attacks. So Russia may be planning violent protests after the Moldavian elections. So some people are talking about that in the world of politics. So why are Moldavia's parliamentary elections on Sunday so important? So it looks like they face a key parliamentary election with an EU bid at stake. And Kremlin is threatening Moldavia's independence, and President warns ahead of the key vote. And Israel attacks the Yemeni capital a day after the Houthi drone strike. So Israel strikes pound Yemen's capital as Houthi leaders decries Gaza war. So Israel strikes Yemen's Sinai after Houthi drone attack on Eilat. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well. And like I said, Trump did present a new Gaza peace plan to Arab and Muslim leaders, and we'll see what their response is to this latest peace plan. And this is a man that said that he ended the 7 wars, and some of the wars I think are still going on, such as the one between the Congo and one of its neighboring countries, as well as some of the European wars. But he said that he has ended 7 wars. And NARAD detects and tracks Russian aircraft operating in the Alaskan Air Defense Identification. The U.S. fighter jets scrambled to intercept Russian warplanes near Alaska. U.S. scrambles jets to intercept the Russian military planes off of that area as well. So that's something that folks are talking about in the world of politics also. Augusta weakens but brings heavy rain and flood risks to northern Vietnam. So that's a typhoon that's over there off of the Asian area and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that people are talking about in the world of politics as well. And Netanyahu takes an unusual flight route over Europe amid threats of war crimes arrests. So his jet largely avoided European airspace in an unusual route to New York. So he flies a circuitous route to the UN summit to avoid arrest in Europe. So definitely looks like he took an extended detour, avoiding most European airspace. And G declares success in Chinese region at Center of Rights abuse claims. So G on Jin King visit urges every effort to achieve social stability. So G visited Jinjing to mark the region's anniversary, and he hails China's correct rule of Jinjing in the face of global criticism. And in Dallas, ICE shooting update, and Trump is threatened layoffs amid looming layoff, or looming shutdowns, I should say. So definitely a lot's going on in that way also. And House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries held a press conference on yesterday. So I guess we'll try to figure out what's going on with the Democrats and whether they're going to be working with this whole effort to try to not have a shutdown of the government. But a lot's going on in that space, and we'll see if there's another government shutdown or not. Kremlin bans fuel exports until the end of the year as Russia's supply has been disrupted. So, Russia to partially ban diesel exports and extend gasoline restrictions after Ukrainian drone attacks. So, Russia moves to extend gasoline export ban until 2026 as shortages persist. So, that's something going on as well. So, we definitely have that going on. And the remarks at the Security Council's open debate on artificial intelligence. So, the UN's AI turning point. AI must not decide humanity's fate, is what the UN chief warned the Security Council, and all along those lines. Well, I say we got Sasha with me, so I'm going to bring Sasha in, see what he's got going on in his world and what he's following in the world politics and everything like that. But I did see that apparently Putin's realizing that he's got an economic problem. So he did something with the oil, and he's also got they're saying that Russia's mounting economic woes could force his hands and maybe even force him to end this war because he raised taxes again as the Ukraine war is draining not just human lives but finances as well. So yeah, I guess he signaled a tax hike a couple of days ago to close Russia's budget gap, but it looks like they had a rate of tax rate of 22% as the war is weighing in on the economy. So I know you've been following this story closely. So is all of this going to get him to finally stop the war? Because it sounds like it's becoming very expensive for the country of Russia.
Um, there are so many issues that you have to separate into departments because they're all very different. Let's talk about the backbone of U.S. economy.
Yeah.
It's agriculture, farmers. This is by far the biggest, but it's also very vulnerable part of the economy. Because right now, what's happening, farmers of the United States cannot sell their crop.
Yeah.
There are no buyers. Canada, Brazil, and many other countries are taking place of US. And why? Because of the tariffs. Trump created enemies around the world, starting with the closest one is Canada and Mexico, by the way, too. And then it goes to Europe and to Asia and to Latin America, all over the world. It's unsustainable. So now he's talking about, I've heard it today on one of the stations. I've heard today that he's going to take all the money that he's collecting from the tariffs and he is going to give it to farmers because they are the parties who suffered because of these tariffs. So,
Right.
what makes sense? You collect the tariffs from people, citizens of the United States, and give it to another group of citizens of the United States. It's even worse than socialism. It just created by your own actions the suffering of one category of people, and then you're taking, so now you have both parties suffering, the consumers who are paying these tariffs and then farmers who have nowhere to sell their crops, so they will get a little bit piece of action from the tariffs. But how does it make sense, Mark? Does it? Do you
I don't
understand?
think it does. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me at all. But then again, I'm not a Republican, and I've never understood what Trump is doing. I don't think he understands what he's doing. Sometimes I think he just randomly does stuff and everything like that. But yeah, it looks like he's trying to try to rescue another group of people. I know a long time ago, the government of the United States rescued the auto workers. Now it looks like they're going to rescue the farmers. And there's a number of times that they do bailouts. And like I said earlier this morning on World Edition, apparently we're bailing out Argentina, which is not
Yeah.
even here in the U.S. But apparently we're going to bail them out with a big monetary windfall as well. So it seems like we're just bailing out folks left and right. But I can't figure it out. Maybe others more smarter than I can.
Now he switched completely his rhetorics about the war between Russia and Ukraine. So
Mm.
now he's talking that Putin is good for nothing, that Russian army in 3.5 years they got maybe 1% of Ukrainian territory. So if indeed it would have been the second strongest army in the world or so on, so he would take Ukraine over by 2 weeks, 2 months, or even 2 years, and it's not happening at all. So if he in 3.5 years, by losing million plus men, he's got 1% of the territory, what a moron! How you can? So Trump was thinking about making some business with Russia, with Putin, and Vitkov was flying there like almost every second week, and telephone calls and all this stuff. Oh my God, that's stupidity. There is no other words for that. So maybe now he's getting somewhere. So he's now understand that Ukraine is for real. And as much as he was doing his horrible thing to Zelensky in February in Oval Office, and he now understands that Zelensky is for real, that he is a fighter, and Ukraine will fight, not only Russia, anybody. Ukraine will never allow anybody to dictate its will to Ukrainian people. So
Yeah,
now
makes sense. Yeah,
Trump understands. So he's got it.
that makes a
Wow.
lot of sense and everything. I know Ukrainians have always been good fighters, even in the boxing and the Olympics and other things like that. What's going on with this whole notion of, is Russia trying to bring the war to the rest of Europe? Because I saw that they were back in the Denmark area again, and I know they've been flying over Poland and they've been flying over other places. So they're trying to pull the rest of Europe into this war. So what's going on with this in your
Of course, they don't have capacity to fight the rest of Europe, while they completely messed up in Ukraine, and there is no easy exit from this horrible situation. What he's though doing, he is probing. There are two things. One, he's probing NATO response. So okay, so we violated on purpose, and that's fine. But what can you do about it? You're going to be quiet and say, no, okay, okay, Russia, keep flying, we are welcoming you. Or they will sooner or later, they will have to hit one of the Russian targets, and maybe even real airplane with pilots who are going to be most likely killed. And then the question is what Russia would do in this case. Now the ball is in a Russian corner. So what they're gonna do? They're gonna escalate. They cannot fight all Europe, NATO, or whatever. They cannot fight Ukraine, let alone the Europe. Uh, and on the other hand, if he thinks about attacking, really attacking with the inferior army, which is bogged down in Ukraine, and it's on a point where Ukraine, in fact, can
team?
really just throw them out of Ukraine, maybe even before the year end. There are enormous amount of weapons and ammunition are coming to Ukraine almost daily. All the biggest European companies like Rheinmetall, they're designing a new weapon specifically for Ukraine. For example, they're now designing a new killers of drones, and they're going to mass produce it. US is about to send 3,300 drones which will be attacking Russians like uh, endless attack. So there will be 1,000 comes, and 10 minutes another 1,000 comes, and then the third 1,000 comes. How Russia will not be able to defend itself. So beside probing NATO and what is their response could be, and how well organized their defense against drones, There is also a political message to Europe, which is saying something like, okay, we are fighting Ukraine. It's not your business. Stay away. Don't help Ukraine. If you will continue helping Ukraine, then we are going to attack you here or there and send drones and send all kinds of stuff. That something was too little, too late. That I think could work maybe at the beginning of the year, maybe by say March, maximum April. That strategy could probably it wouldn't work anyway, but at least had some chances. Not today. It's too
Yeah.
late.
I was actually surprised. I saw that lately Ukraine has been targeting the petrochemical complexes and other things that have to do with the energy. And I know that if you study war, and I know that you do, as does Jonathan on your Ukrainian show, that usually you attack sources of power. So I was surprised that they are just now getting around to attacking these sources of power. I thought they would have attacked them earlier in the war and everything. But it looks like it's an effective thing because they are definitely hitting a lot of the oil facilities, and maybe that's why the energy prices are going up, and he's actually, meaning Putin, curtailing some of the oil consumption and all along those lines. But is there a reason in your mind, because like I said, you were in the military, that they waited at this point to do it versus doing it earlier?
Oh, that's an easy one. There are two things. Number one, last year or years before, Ukraine didn't have the right weapons to hit all this because all this drones technology and now the Ukraine is number one drone producer and have the best technology in the world. But it's happened quite recently. And number two, Biden was scared of escalation and say hell. And even some refineries which are closer to Ukrainian border, Ukrainians could hit with their own weapons, not necessarily American weapons, but their own. Biden was against it. No, 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 no. Please don't do that. It will escalate, or so on. And well, today two things happened. Nobody is asking Ukraine to restrain itself, and it has their own weapons now. The biggest weapon is coming already. They're producing 50 missiles uh, this month,
Mm.
but then they're going to do 7 a day. It's missiles that can fly 3,000 kilometers, and the uh, the part that explodes is exactly 1 ton. That's how big is the rocket, and it's phenomenally exact as hitting the target. It's only 14 meters allowed to be away from the target, so it's almost absolute. They already used this um, uh, missiles a couple of times, but what the thing is they have to build up a supply of a couple of hundred missiles so they could hit Russian targets every day. This is the most important thing. Instead of putting up in the air, say, three, four, even 10 missiles one day, and then for a week you do nothing, it doesn't work that way. You have to three, four,
How
five
did Ukraine
every.
get this capacity?
Yeah, they have
No,
capacity.
how did they build it up? Is it not super expensive? Do they have the is like so they're
Ukraine
building it?
now Ukraine has all finances in the world that it can get from Europe. They now do a lot of joint ventures with the Europeans, like German Rheinmetall. It's a very well respected company. And also, they do a lot of their own production underground, so Russians cannot detect it and hit it. So, a lot of production is now underground in Ukraine.
Well,
And that,
speaking of underground, it looks like Iran has likely carried out an undeclared missile test. I know that there's been all that controversy about the Iran-Contra deal way back when, and other things that Iran had said that they weren't going to do. But it was a satellite photo that came out earlier today, so it looks like they're rebuilding missile plants that were hit during the war with Israel is what the satellite images are showing. So I guess people are wondering how much of a threat they're going to be. And I know part of your conversation is on the Russia Ukraine show sometimes deals with other countries, including Iran and everything. But how worried should we be that apparently today they have reported, according to satellites, that they are rebuilding and doing undeclared missile tests?
Israel will take care of all that and very soon. So it's a non-event, I would say.
So Russia's capacity. How's Russia's capacity to build new arms?
Now, you see, Russians are using mostly, they probably already used all their arsenal left from the Second World War. They're using now Korean weapons of all kinds. Besides Korean troops, of course, they're bringing in from time to time. They don't last, especially now when the winter is coming soon. I think North Koreans are completely useless. And China is trying to be on the background. They're helping Russians for sure, and they're buying Russian oil. But all that will come to the head with Trump and Xi meetings or some
So
agreement.
this turnaround with Trump saying that Ukraine can take back Russian the territory taken by the Russian, what's the deal? Is Trump just random, or is it based on what's his deal here?
Trump, I think Trump understands that at least at this moment, there is no deal between Ukraine and Russia. They have to fight it out, really. I mean, let's put it in a lot of people. They love the peace, and they say, "Oh, we want peace," and so on. The best peace is when one side wins the war, and then they sign willingly. Both sides are signing some kind of an agreement. When there is unresolved conflict, there will be no peace. Sometimes it's not so bad either. For example, if you take Korea, North Korea and South Korea, there's what is it, 80 years now that there is no war and there is no peace.
Or even England and Ireland, which have been at conflict with each other forever to some degree or another. But yeah, they've been
Yeah.
still having that kind of. Uh,
But you see, very few people are as stubborn as Russians and Ukrainians. Very few people, I can't even compare them to anything in the world. They are exceptionally stubborn people, stubborn in a good sense. So they are really, but except that Ukrainians, they're defending their families, their houses, their territory. And Russians, what they're doing in Ukraine, nothing, killing people.
So you got maybe a month or 6 weeks before winter really hits. Do you think that Ukraine will try to push to grab some territory before winter kind of?
Yeah, that's what they're doing right now, and Russians didn't expect that because Ukrainians now pushing them back and almost on all directions. And also there were some elite brigades that Zelensky now also put on the front lines, and they're merciless. They're well trained. Say one brigade, I think it's 82nd Brigades, 2,000 people who were fighting in all kind of fronts, and they have the best NATO training equipment, British tanks, Challengers, and the drones, and just name it, they have everything. So when they attack, Russians don't fight them; they run.
Hey, Sasha, how much of Crimea have they reclaimed? Because I know it seems like they were reclaiming part of Crimea.
Oh, they don't. Ukrainians didn't invade Crimea yet. They are just burning everything what is there, everything, all the buildings, the refineries, the airports, the planes, the whatever you can destroy, they do destroy everything. I saw quite a few videos where Crimea is in. It's nothing but smoke and fire.
So,
smoke and fire all the time, 24 hours a day.
so Zelensky says he's not going to run for president again, and he's talking about holding elections. Are people getting in Ukraine getting tired of Zelensky? What's going on there?
No, that's in constitution. During the war, there cannot be elections in Ukraine. That's their law. So if you change the law, that's a different story, but you don't. So there will be no election until there will be some peace, or Ukraine will kick out all the Russians from their territories, or some kind of a resolution will
So
be.
yeah.
And after that, he's prepared to hold elections.
So he has to be president as long as there's a war going on. So
Yeah,
right,
correct.
he can't pull out until after the war and everything. Yeah, I
Yes.
got some good news for you, Rick, and this is changing this topic just slightly and everything, but we're actually totally and all along those lines. But I know sometimes on this network we talk about fiscal literacy and just literacy in general, but Time Out, which is a magazine, put out their neighborhood of the coolest neighborhoods in the world, and apparently one of the coolest neighborhoods is a cool neighborhood because apparently it's a neighborhood of a lot of readers, because Tokyo won the award this year and everything, and they called it a bibliophile nirvana because apparently it's home to some Jipacho, which is home to some 130 vintage bookstores, is in the Tokyo area. So they're saying that there's a lot of readers there in Tokyo, and a lot of folks that are because part of the criteria was culture, community, livability, food and drink, and everything like that. So it looks like there's a lot of readers. So maybe
Well,
there's a
good
lot.
for them. Everybody's ability to read has been steadily eroding under social media. My ability to sit down with a book and concentrate long enough to get through it has been just wrecked. And I think I'm not unusual in that. So if there's still people who can get through books, that's great.
Yeah, well, that's really good and everything. Sasha, you've been to Belgium, haven't you? Because the number 2 city is Borgerhout, Antwerp, which is dubbed the Belgian city's creative heart. So apparently it's got all kinds of great cafes, including Cafe Jose and Pizza Gallery and everything like that. But apparently that's the number 2 city, with Barra Fonda, which is to the west of Sao Paulo, Brazil, being number 3 and everything like that. So I was wondering if because I think you told me you've been to Brazil too and everything, but I think I've heard you say you've been to Belgium. So what was your take on Belgium?
On Belgium, yeah, I spent about a week in Belgium. It was a very pleasant time for me. The Brussels, beautiful place, beautiful city, fantastic beer, very good food. It's they call it French food with the German portions, because as you know, French food is you have little tiny pieces in the middle of the plate that you have to find them. And in Belgium, you have just fantastic food there. People, we were guests of one U.S. lawyer who is he lives in Belgium, in Brussels, and so he was taking us around, and we had a beautiful time of the year. We were I think in June, beginning of June or something. It was a really, really great time. By the way, I found that June, beginning of then May, the first 2 weeks of June are the best time to visit Europe, because then it's becoming much hotter, more tourists, and it's not the same anymore. So the last week of May and 2 weeks of June, that's it.
My wife and I went to Belgium last year, and very nice country, quiet. Like the people are not, Americans we're not super obnoxious, but we're kind of obnoxious. Belgians were like, very chill. And we went around, we went to Antwerp, which is the world capital of diamonds.
Yeah.
Into some diamond stores, and that industry is being totally disrupted by lab-grown diamonds. This lady, we talked to a sales lady, and her hand, was just covered with giant diamonds. And she said, yeah, if these were real, they would cost $150,000.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, they are real, but if they were taken out of the ground instead of grown in a lab.
Instead of being lab grown.
So
very interesting place is in Amsterdam. It's a diamond museum. And you see all the rare diamonds and so on, real ones.
Yeah, the real ones and everything. By the way, the number 4 city, Rick, is a city that your daughter might have gone to, but apparently London's Camberwell was the champion for its young at heart vibe and the independent spirit and the fact that it was multicultural. So it definitely has a lot of different people and different cultures and everything like that. So apparently it's got a South London gallery and other art spaces, and that's part of what makes them distinctive. So I don't know if she was while she was in school there attending or going to that place. They even had a recently opened coffee shop bookstore called Layla Books.
Oh, she's written a book herself, and she's working on a proposal for another book. She reads a lot of books, probably mostly in her field, which is historic embroidery. She's one of the world's experts on embroidery from past centuries.
Oh, wow.
But Los Angeles is a pretty good city. I thought I used to live in New York, and then when we moved to LA, I thought it wouldn't be a bookish city, but we have 159 public libraries between LA City and LA County. They're pretty well stocked. We have some bookstores. They were forced out, but they're coming back, I think. And my wife, has been in a book club for, I don't know, 8 years. And
it looks like the top 5, the highest ranking U.S. spot was actually Avondale in Chicago, because it was known for its wine bars, wellness studios, and music videos. And also they got a quirky small business scene, which includes a retro bowling alley, the Avondale Bowl, and an antique mall themed bar, the consignment lounge, and everything. So apparently,
to get back to LA, people in LA have to read. At least some people do, because that's where you get your properties to buy to turn into TV shows and movies.
Oh yeah.
And at least people in LA are reading comic books, because a lot of comic books lately have been turned into movies. So we're doing a little reading at least.
Yeah, the little reading and everything like that, just going out in the top 10, and people can read the article on CNN if they want to see the rest of the 39. But the number 6 one was Maladong, Seoul, South Korea, Minmalat, Paris, France, Nakatasa, Osaka, Japan, Valila, Helsinki, Finland, and last but not least, the highest ranking African one is Laban, Accra, Ghana. And Ghana has a lot in that area of historical history as well, because that's where some of the slave trade took place and all along those lines. So definitely those are interested in interesting cities and everything. I don't know what other stories y'all have seen that you're interested in.
Okay, I got some stories. We got James Comey is going to be charged with some bullshit because he pissed off Trump for leaking information about, I think what they're going to try to get him for is leaking information in 2020 that Trump was being investigated by the FBI, I think.
I think that was part of what they were going after him for and everything like that. Oh, by the way, how do you, maybe you got an idea, Rick, or even Sasha, how do you sneak a statue into the D.C. area? Because I know that yesterday or a couple of days ago,
they had a permit. They had a permit to put up that statue of Trump holding hands with Epstein. And they had it permitted through Sunday, but the Park Service told them to take it down after about a day.
Okay.
Even though they had permission to do it. So it wasn't sneaking it, it was bringing it.
Okay. It just went through the whole art process of going through and saying that they were going to do it as public art or whatever. So I did not know that. So now I do know that. We'll see what else is going on in the world. I did say we're hoping.
The president of France is going to prison for 5 years for corruption.
I did mention that earlier. That was because of the corruption case involving Gaddafi, of all people. So Gaddafi and a bribe that took place decades ago and everything like that. But yes, he is going to prison. The former president, not the current president, but the former president of France is going to prison for some, I guess, bribe money he took from Gaddafi back in the day.
Okay.
I was hoping that Nick would be here because I'm a big fan, because I even watch the old TV shows, both the real ones as well as the fictional series Cold Case. And apparently there's a cold case in how much were you involved, Sasha, as I tell about this cold case with Interpol? But first, there was a woman in pink identified by Interpol 20 years after her body was found in Spain. So she was identified as Ludmila Zavadi, and they're saying that she was identified as a Russian citizen, so a Russian national body identified in Spain after 20 years. Police suspect foul play and everything like that. So maybe it was some spy stuff going on. But when you were working or in the Soviet Army, did you have that much dealings at all with Interpol?
No,
I was just curious. Everything cool.
no.
What about you, Rick? What is your thoughts on Interpol? Do you ever deal with them in the LA?
No. I used to advise the Boulder City Police a little bit about how to catch fake IDs because I worked in bars and I was really good at catching fake IDs. So I had a big board that showed I built a guide to what kind of fake IDs look like. That's my only involvement with the police.
Well, speaking of involvement with police, it's people are trying to figure out, just like they were trying to figure out who the guy that shot Charlie Kirk was. Now they're trying to figure out who is Joshua John, because apparently he's the Dallas ICE shooting suspect who was identified and everything like that. And some people are saying that it was a very definition of terrorism. So apparently he sought to terrorize ICE.
All right, so you got two things pushing, and so they found bullets at the scene. One of the bullets had anti-ICE written on it.
Okay.
But the people shot were all detainees. None of them were ICE agents. So, yeah, it's every time somebody gets shot in one of these things now, both sides are very worried about the politics of the shooter. And then other people are calling bullshit on the whole thing, saying it's not about his politics. It's about this is a crazy person who had access to guns. So, yeah, people.
I would say that Kirk is a very dividing issue. It should be already. He's got funeral. His family is taken care of. There is nothing more to discuss. Those who love Kirk, they can listen to his tapes and read whatever he wrote there. Those people who don't care about Kirk, so they go on with your life and just forget it. It's very dividing. And he wasn't really government official. He wasn't the prime minister. He wasn't a Ministry of Defense or anything like. Oh my God, what a horrible thing! He was wearing the vest, which he knew the risks what he was taking. So he was prepared to be shot and perhaps killed. He knew what he was playing with, and it just happened. And it's a tragic thing. It for so many years it didn't happen, but now today it did happen. That's a fact of life. You cannot do anything about it. Get that young man, get him to electric chair or use guillotine or do something with him, and that's it. And close the book.
Well,
Okay, guys, we have to go.
Well, okay, but and this is for you and Ricky. But if you got to go, you got to go. But speaking of things that are common, and it happens all the time, it's Chuck. It happens in some of the buildings that I work at and everything. Things break down, but apparently because the teleprompter broke and the escalator broke, Trump is accusing the UN of sabotage. So the UN says Trump.
Okay, so let's talk about I don't know about the teleprompter, but I can tell that what people are saying about the escalator is, there's a button at the bottom of the escalator, maybe at the top too. You can hit it if somebody's like caught in it and they're about to lose their toes or something. And apparently somebody from Trump's crew accidentally bumped the button and shut down the escalator.
Yeah, that's just common for a lot of times. I know even in the cultural center I work at, we've had our elevator break and everything. We don't think it was sabotage. It was just things happen and things break. So yeah, like I said,
well, this maybe didn't even break. Maybe somebody bumped the button, the stop button.
Just bump the stop button and everything. By the way, you're talking about Comey and everything. It says federal prosecutors, and this was from 18 minutes ago, are preparing to seek a Comey indictment despite concerns that they have insufficient evidence. So he's expected to be indicted in Virginia federal court and they said they even have no probable cause to charge him, but I guess they're going to go ahead and do it anyway because Attorney General Bondi and prosecutors even have reservations over making this charge and everything. But I guess because Trump wants them to do it, they will do it and everything.
Yeah, and again, I've read that Trump doesn't care that much about whether he wins the case. He likes, the pageantry of the and the annoyance it causes people. John Bolton will possibly be charged in the next week or two because they're claiming they found classified documents when they raided his house.
Well, speaking of people that have an interest in history that are in the Trump administration, apparently earlier today, and this was after our World Edition, Pete Hegseth has ordered a rare urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. So he ordered hundreds of senior military officers to Virginia for a highly unusual meeting, and even Trump and Vance are downplaying his meeting with the military leaders. So maybe he's trying to come up with a plan of action for our military, or
I don't know. So he's demanding, or I had that up here. Let me see if I can find it again. That he's calling in like 7,500 people to this huge meeting.
yes.
And nobody knows what it's going to be about. So here it is. Let's see. No, not I confused two stories. He's calling in a meeting of 800 generals and admirals.
Yeah,
And,
that's the one.
So who knows?
Who knows? And apparently Trump has also announced a deal to put TikTok under the control of U.S. investors, and he signed an executive order allowing TikTok deal to proceed. So the TikTok deal looks like it's going to go in place since he signed this executive order, and the DOJ is suing 6 states for private voter data and voting rolls. So they're suing 6 states for failing to turn over their voter registration rolls and everything.
What states? I assume blue states?
I'm assuming blue states too. I'm going to go see if I can find it in the New York Times, which of the 6 states he's going after. But I imagine they're probably, like you said.
Okay, so we're going to hear a ton about this in the next 13 months until the election. That they're trying to prevent voter fraud. There is almost no voter fraud in the U.S. That the Heritage Foundation, a very conservative organization,
Yes.
has a voter integrity database, and out of more than 2 billion votes cast in the past 20 years in all the elections, they've added up all the votes cast in all our national elections, that we have every 2 years. And out of 2 billion votes, about 2,000 votes were voter fraud. That's 1 in a million votes, which
that's not even a percentage.
No, it's 1/10,000th of 1%. It's not enough to flip any election.
And by the way, you were correct. They look like they're all blue states. So the DOJ Civil Rights Division filed federal lawsuits today against election officials in California, New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and New Hampshire, claiming that those states violated federal law by refusing to share voter rolls with the Trump administration. And I think all 6 of those are blue states and everything like that.
Yeah, and it's bullshit that they just didn't want to give Trump ammo to say, he'll say whatever he wants anyway. But like LA, like they like to claim that all these dead people are voting, which is not true. What it is states maintain voter rolls and people die. And those people, aren't necessarily cleaned off the voter rolls as quickly as people might want, but it doesn't mean those people are being voted for. It doesn't mean that people get their ballots. And
that makes sense in terms of the final control, because I agree that all 6 of those states are blue by nature, but in terms of who controls the election, apparently it's a mixed bag because Michigan, Minnesota, and California have Democrats as their secretaries of state, and I think they're in their states the secretaries of states are the ones in charge. And if you think, well, New Hampshire and Pennsylvania have Republican chief election officials, and New York has a state board of elections, which I think is appointed and has a mixture of people, both Republican and Democrats.
So no, people. I'll Google it, but no. Even if a state voter roll has dead people on it, those voting records aren't active. Those people don't get ballots, and
Right.
dead people aren't voting. Let me look it up and get a better explanation than me hemming and hawing. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's a study. Are dead people voting by mail? Common concern is that mail-in ballots are sent to dead people. And this is a study in Washington State. We link counted ballots and administrative death records to estimate the rate at which dead people's mail-in ballots are improperly counted. So they studied the state of Washington from 2011 to 2018, where a total of 4.5 million votes were cast. And they found that 14 people might have had their votes, 14 dead people might have had their votes cast suspiciously. And this represents 0.0003% of voters. About less than 1 in 300,000. So it's not like people are abusing the system to significantly generate lots of fake voting.
Yeah,
It's on the order of, so.
Not at all. By the way, they said that 9/11 lines, and I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods. I think there's an alternative in North Carolina, but I can't remember what it is. But they said that they're down in parts of Mississippi and Louisiana, but they did give some of the different numbers that folks can call and everything if they are not able to call 911, which is kind of the universal one. So just for example, I'm not going to go through all of them, but in Gautier, they can call 228 and 497 or 2486. And in Long Beach, they can call 228-363 or 2835. And in Pascagoula, they can call 228-762.
Wait, so what are people calling about?
Apparently, like 9/11 is emergencies, and apparently their emergency lines are down today in Mississippi and Louisiana. So they were given in certain places alternative numbers. So I don't know. I imagine there's probably alternative numbers in your area as well, because apparently there was a series of fiber cuts, so they accidentally cut the wires, which is the reason that happened in that part of the Deep South and everything. So, and apparently in Biloxi, Gulfport, and Piscatine, they can still call 911, but the lines are automatically rerouted to an administrative line. So they're doing it different ways. They're giving you a number that you can call, or they're rerouting them to another number. So they're trying to find ways to deal with it because somebody accidentally cut something. And I also see that there's a federal lawsuit about something that used to be popular. I don't know, was it popular when you were in school? It probably was, but a former USM student, and I'm not sure what USM stands for, but they're filing a federal lawsuit against the school and fraternity over a hazing incident. So I know that they used to be very popular and everything like that. And that's the University of South Mississippi and everything like that. So it was South Mississippi.
Yeah, so I mean, it still happens some. I pledged a frat, and they were very careful to keep the hazing limited to to limit the danger.
Well, as I told some friends of mine, and some people will say that I am making it up, but like I said, it was some 40 years ago, so maybe I do not remember it as the way that I think I remember it. But I think part of the reason that I did not pledge a fraternity, and I was recruited by at least two, because my roommate was I don't think he was a Q. I think he was a Kappa and everything. He might have been a Q, but I think he was a Kappa. But I had friends that were Alphas, which are black fraternities and everything like that. But I want to say when he was pledging and everything, it seemed to me that there was part of the ritual that they were doing was putting hot sauce on a part of the body that doesn't need hot sauce and everything like that. So as soon as I saw that and he was complaining about that, I'm going like, nope, I don't think that's going to work and everything. Because, there's the expression of hot dog, but I'm not trying to make that a literal hot dog and everything like that. So like I said, I was going like, no, I think I'll pass.
Yeah, well, I joined a frat because I lost my virginity to a girl I met at their frat party. I'm like, well, that was a huge favor for me. So and they needed members. So I'm like, all right, well, they helped me get rid of my virginity. They didn't it wasn't like they set me up with the girl, but I thought, all right, I'll join the frat because.
Well, speaking of joining things, apparently the DOJ, our favorite people, Department of Justice, are reportedly ordering an investigation into a Trump target, the George Soros network. So apparently the George Soros Foundation is hit back at Trump to report that the DOJ plans to target the group. And we know that group does give support to various campaigns, various causes, and a number of other things. So it looks like they are directing prosecutors to prepare a probe into this foundation. So what is our thoughts around this?
Well, Trump is going after all his enemies. George Soros is this very old, very rich guy who gives, I don't know, hundreds of millions of bucks to liberal causes. He's not any different from the Koch brothers who give hundreds of millions of dollars to conservative causes.
Right.
But Soros is accused of all sorts of, nefarious stuff, but mostly he just gives money to political causes, and the Republicans hate this, and they're always trying to take him down.
Well, speaking of people trying to take folks down, apparently RFK Jr., another one of our favorite people, launched an FDA review of an abortion pill. So he's looking at the mifepristone. I can never pronounce that word.
Mifepristone or something, yeah.
And apparently federal agencies are studying the safety of the abortion drug, driving new concerns about limits on access. So apparently he's going to study the new safety limits on this abortion pill and everything like that. So it looks like he's going after.
If I remember correctly, it's no more dangerous than aspirin.
Well, he also went after Tylenol. So he's going after all these things that aren't really all that dangerous and everything like that. And it looks like 3 school districts will be losing $65 million over gender and DEI policy. So this is in New York City, Chicago, and Fairfax, which is Fairfax, Virginia, I believe, and everything.
So what, the federal government is pulling federal funds because they practice DEI?
Yes, and they've done that for not just school districts, but I know they were also doing that, I think, with some of the colleges. So yes, they're pulling money from a number of people because of their teaching of DEI, which he's not a big fan of and everything, and gender equality and some of the other gender education.
So we have 40 more months of this. If we manage to elect somebody who's not a Republican next time as president, maybe things will be different. But we still have 3 years and almost 4 months to go until we have a new president.
Yep, we got to deal with that. And some of his people are getting in trouble. I think you mentioned this maybe on World Edition or maybe yesterday and everything. But apparently Tom Homan is in trouble. So the Democrats are urging the DOJ to release files related to the border czar because he was caught in a sting operation.
But is he really in trouble? Because the DOJ shut down an investigation into this guy taking a $50,000 bribe in cash in a paper bag or in a plastic bag. And if the government isn't going to prosecute him and he's not going to leave, his post, what kind of trouble is he really in? Democrats can bitch about it all they want, but if nobody's going to, exercise any control over him, then he'll just keep working.
Yep, that's very true.
I mean, we know all sorts of stuff that would be disqualifying for people Trump has been convicted of 34 counts of fraud. Is that stopping him from doing anything? No.
Nope. Well, one of the world's villains has passed away and everything like that because, just like we had people trying to assassinate President Trump and everything, and we had Charlie Kirk assassinated and everything. Apparently, Sarah Jane Moore who was one of the would-be assassins of President Ford, because I think there were a couple of people that took shots at President Ford, has died at the age of 95 in Franklin, Tennessee, and everything like that. So she's the one that was trying to assassinate Ford back when he was in office.
There were 2 assassination attempts on Ford that were very public that happened within 2 weeks of each other. For a while, it looked like just everybody was trying to shoot Ford for no reason. Like when people try to assassinate political figures, it's often, I mean, it's like when Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated JFK. I don't know that he had a personal beef with JFK. He just was a lunatic with a gun. When Lincoln was assassinated, the guy had a beef. He was sympathetic to the Southern cause.
Right.
But half of the time, it's just some freaking lunatic. And I feel like the attempts on Ford's life, Ford was a very, moderate politician. And I don't think the people who tried to shoot him had a political issue with him. They were just crazy people.
Because it was this woman, and it wasn't Quickie from the other one that tried to assassinate Ford.
Could be. And I remember that, like one of the guys who stopped her, that she was maybe having trouble with her gun, and a guy jumped in, and before she could pull the trigger again, and jammed his hand into between the hammer and the rest, the hammer that has, and the bullet, jammed his hand into the gun and disabled the gun. And
that was right. It was Quickie Fromm, and it was like 17 days apart from each other because her action followed Fromm's attempt.
But this guy, this hero who's maybe saved the president, was a gay guy, and that was interesting at the time because gay people were way less a part of public life in the mid-70s.
And they said that unlike Fromm, a member of the Manson family cult, which is why I think she went after Ford, Moore had been radicalized by the revolutionary politics of the day and the Patricia Hearst kidnapping by the Symbionese Liberation Army. So apparently she had been radicalized by what was going on with Patty Hearst and the...
All right, so everything I said was wrong. She had political concerns, even though they were crazy concerns. Right. Yeah, the Symbionese Liberation Army was a group of lunatics who kidnapped Patty Hearst and kept her in a closet for like 2 years. And she eventually got Stockholm syndrome and decided she liked him, and she helped him rob a bank. And the kidnapped victim, ended up going to prison for 2 or 3 years for participating in the bank robbery.
Right, exactly. And by the way, Moore was sentenced to life in prison. Apparently, she tried to escape in 1979, but was captured after only a few hours, and she was released on parole in 2007. So she's been out for 18 years and everything like that. But yeah, she's just spent quite a bit of time in prison and everything. Last thing I was going to mention, and we'll get ready to get out of here, we got a rerun of Coco this time because Coco had some other things going on and all along those lines. But it does look like Zelensky is saying, and you talked about the drones with Sasha, that the world is in the most destructive arms race in a long time. So he warns of the dangerous new arms race tied to drones. So he said Russia will expand aggression beyond Ukraine if Putin is not stopped. So this is what he said at the UN General Assembly. Because I know whenever they do these General Assemblies, different world leaders get up and talk and get their moments of fame. As a matter of fact, we put some of those in the past on the network, and I might get some of these.
He's not wrong. I mean, drones, are super cheap, super effective, and now you can build them this big. So if you want to kill somebody, everybody should watch Black Mirror on Netflix, which dramatizes the issues with modern technology. And if you have a bunch of drones the size of bees, they can kill you. If they can track you and so we got drones. We have these robot dogs that haven't been widely deployed, but those things are, will be unstoppable. There's, these, and everybody was, we still have nukes. Nukes continue to be terrifying.
Oh yeah, nukes are very terrifying, and we don't know when somebody may have the button and decide to hit the button and everything like that, even though right now nobody is doing that. So we'll have World Edition tomorrow. We'll have more discussions around some of these issues, as well as some of our other programs. I know that the Ukraine, Russia, China show will be tomorrow because that's always on Tuesday and Friday. And we'll also have, I think Jeanette will be doing her interior designing show. And Stella on Friday does one about activism, Stella Adams, because she is a housing advocate as well as an advocate in some other causes as well. So she's always got a good show at noon on Fridays as well. So it's called Doing Justice Brings Joy. So we'll see that show on tomorrow.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
On that note, we'll get out of here, and I'll see you on tomorrow morning.
Bye. Thanks.